Are we live? There we go. Thank you. It's 5:30 and I call the work session to order. I will entertain a motion for consideration of the work session and regular meeting agendas.
Mayor Claffey, I move
Councilor
to
Wood.
approve the work session and regular meeting agendas as presented.
Motion has been made. Is there a
That's
second?
not what I'm doing. Yeah.
We can remove it.
Now?
We can remove it.
Yes.
No, the consent agenda.
Yeah, that's separate.
It's separate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is the work
consent
session.
agenda item.
I think if you want to just remove the item for no consideration and during the meeting at all, you would do it now.
Oh,
Very good.
hold on.
Can I ask a question, follow-up question?
Sure.
Is it appropriate to do it now, considering we might have a lot of people coming to speak on it this evening and matters from the public? Just so they're aware if they come for the meeting.
Well, I mean, certainly you can, or you could just, you can wait, or you can do it now and have the mayor make that announcement when
How
the
about we do
meeting's
it now
called
and
to
then,
order.
when I get to the consent agenda, I will mention that it was already removed. Does that work?
Fortunately, my email don't want to in there.
Okay.
Give me a second. I would have had it ready if knew we was doing it now. So okay, Mayor Claffey.
Councilor Woods.
I move that council remove item A3 from the agenda and that council consider this proposed memorandum of procedure as well as all of its memoranda of procedure at the January 2025 Stanton City Council organizational meeting.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Campbell. Mr. Kester, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Yeah, first item on our work session tonight is an introduction of Stanton redevelopment and housing.
I'm sorry, you now have to approve the agendas as amended.
As amended.
Sorry, I'm
So
sorry.
now I can move to approve the work session and regular meeting agenda as presented.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll need to vote on that.
Oh,
Second
second.
that.
Mr. Kester.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good. Boy, and that took the full 5 minutes, didn't it? All right.
Started on time.
So now we're to item 2, introduction of Stanton Redevelopment and Housing Authority's Executive Director, Nehemiah Velez. Ms. Bogart.
I am pleased to introduce Nehemiah Velez, who joined the Stanton Redevelopment and Housing Authority, I guess exactly a year ago. So welcome to Nehemiah, and I know we all look forward to meeting him this evening and hearing all the great work that's happening at the Housing Authority. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, council members.
Welcome.
Members of the community. I'm just gonna introduce myself. I have to say, I'm missing Rebecca. She put me in the situation. Now she's not here today. But I hope she feels better. So my name is Nehemiah Velez. I started here May 1st of last year. So I've been here for a little bit over a year. I worked with the Harrisonburg Redevelopment Housing Authority for about 15 years, and I did some social services work in Harrisonburg. I have a wife, 2 kids, and I graduated from EMU. So now that that's over, I'm going to talk about what the Stanton Redevelopment Housing Authority is doing and what it is. The Stanton Redevelopment Housing Authority is an instrument for the localities, for Stanton and for Augusta County. And it was created under Title 36 of the Code of Virginia. and it's been organized since March 9th of 1961, and it's been in continued operation since that date. I'll explain the programs that we have, and if you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them as best as I can. So we used to have public housing, and I know that there was a question with regards to the funds that Waynesboro and some of those other housing authorities received. We don't qualify for them because we don't have public housing, so we're not eligible for them. Thus is the reason that we were not going to be on there. In fact, we converted from public housing to what HUD calls RAD PBRA back in November of 2015. Those are what they called PBRA is public housing. It's a project-based rental assistance program. What HUD allows you to do as a housing authority is to take the public housing and convert it into project-based program. There is a good situation for doing that, which is it provides the residents more portability. In public housing, you can't do that. Public housing keeps the assistance in the units, so they can't port out or they can't move anywhere. For ours, when you're there for 2 years, if we have vouchers available, you can port out to a different locality. So it does allow the residents more portability, if you will. In addition, the housing authority also owns the property. So with public housing, it's more of the public owns it, and you get HUD funds. We have 150 units. 1 bedrooms, we have 70 total. 2 bedrooms, we have 40 total. 3 bedrooms, 22, and then 4 bedrooms, 12, and then we have 6 5-bedrooms. That should equal 150, and those are all ours. And for your information, we have over 400 applicants for that program. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, are there any questions with regards to?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Nehemiah, you have 150.
Correct.
I want you to tell me how many units would it take, or how many units would be the best amount for you, for your program to handle, to be 100%, to take care of what you're
The need,
Hmm?
the need overall.
Yeah, the need, the overall need.
For Staunton?
Yeah, Stanton.
So, you're getting ahead of myself, but so we will have those numbers for you. I believe the CSPDC is doing a housing study for you. And a lot of stakeholders in the community are working with them to provide all those numbers. And that will give you a better assessment of what the needs are. For your information, we are currently trying to evaluate what the possibilities are, since we own the land, to add more units. We are in talk with a developer. He believes we can add 55, 75 more units into EMG or Farrier Court. So we're in talks, and that's in the process, but I can't really tell you because I don't have the numbers but the need is there. And you can look at it all over the place. We need more affordable housing, whether it be for low-income families or middle class.
Are all those 150 fully, people living in them now?
So currently we have 143 filled and 7 are vacant. That's due to we have turnover and then evaluating people on the waiting list and moving them in there. Any other questions?
I'll continue.
Okay. The housing voucher program, HUD has given us 248 vouchers. The voucher program is well thought of because of the portability aspect. Ideally, a voucher holder can stay in an apartment, and we work with private landlords for a year. After the year, they can go somewhere else if they choose to, anywhere in the United States of America. So we have a total of 248. It does not mean, though, that we can use all those vouchers because it's based on the HUD budget. So we have to, however much HUD gives us, because the cost of per unit has risen, we are pretty much utilizing all the funds that HUD is giving us right now. And we have about 220 vouchers that are being utilized. So we will not be able to help those other 28 vouchers because we don't have the funds from HUD. Now, hopefully they'll give us more funds for that as they continue to work on the budget. 10 of those vouchers are what we call VASH, and that's, we work with the VA. The VA refers us the veterans, and we work with them. I've spoken to the VA. There's an interest with the VA as well to, if we ever build, we can use some of those VASH vouchers to project base any community that we decide to build or development. So they are interested and they're be willing to work with us, which is a good thing. We have over 1,000 applicants on the HCV waiting. So to answer your question, that's quite a bit of applicants that we're not going to be able to help because there's not enough funds.
Would each applicant be considered a separate unit? Or do you mean?
Yes, yeah, those are, let's just call them families.
Okay.
HUD allows us to take 20% of our vouchers to project base them. And what you have is developers come to us and they want vouchers so they can get their tax credits. Now, we can also use that when we apply for tax credit for any development that we do. Right now, we have 20% that we can use. Now, we've worked, when the previous director was here, she issued a total of 32 project-based vouchers to a developer. Right now, we have 8 in use and about 15 more that will be used for those 15 new apartments. They're all 3 bedrooms. And that is the Mount Laurel and Middlebrook Trace. So we would have a remainder of 9 once those developments are done, that we have a contract with them and HUD to give out those project-based vouchers. We have 14 project-based vouchers left out of that 20% that we can use for any tax credit applications that we decide to do. However, I'm moving into the Moving to Work program that we've applied for. Moving to Work, we've applied in December 8th of 2023. The HUD website states the following about Moving to Work. It's a demonstration program for public housing authorities that provides the opportunity to design and test innovative locality design strategies that use federal dollars for more efficiently help residents find employment and become self-sufficient, increase housing choice for low-income families. MTW, PHA's exemptions from many existing public housing and voucher rules and provides funding flexibility with how they use their federal funds. So we used to have monies that were exempt or reserved for specific things. We are now a Move to Work agency and we can do that, and we have that flexibility. Currently, there are only 139 MTW agencies in the country. There's about 330 PHAs in the whole United States. Only 139 qualify to be MTW. We were the only one chosen in Virginia when we got the designation in March. I see that as the biggest big accomplishment when as my first thing to do here, as is it is a great opportunity and an honor to work with HUD and have those flexibilities that we can tailor our program for the community. So it's a big thing. In Virginia, we were the only one. So Virginia has the following PHAs in the MTW program: Portsmouth, Bristol, Harrisonburg, Fairfax, and now us. We can request the following waivers from HUD: tenant rent policy waivers, so we can adjust our rents, payment standards, re-examinations, so instead of doing 1-year examinations, We can do 3 years and allow the voucher holder to save that money. So if they get a new job, we don't have to affect or impact them instead of going the rent up. The rent doesn't go up. So for 3 years, they can save that money and use it for building wealth. We can work with landlords, landlord incentives. We can use our HAP funds for that now. Our inspections, we can change our inspections. Project-based flexibilities, I spoke to 20%. We can now raise that to 50%. So we can have 50% of our vouchers be project-based. That's a big one. Family self-sufficiency, flexibilities. Work requirements, local and non-traditional activities. Those are just some of the waivers that we can ask for. There are more waivers available for PHAs. The SRHA has begun the onboarding process of MTW with HUD. The SRHA will be posting public notices and involve the community for input as we go through this process. Present and future goals for us. We are almost completing our strategic plan. We'll be sending that to HUD with our annual and 5-year plan this year. HUD is updating their policy, what they call Housing Opportunity through the Modernization Act, what they call HOTMA. That becomes effective January 1st of 2025. So we have to be compliant by then. HUD is also changing their inspections. They now call it the National Standards for the Physical Inspection of Real Estate, called INSPIRE. That becomes effective October 1st. Currently, we're evaluating development and rehabilitation options for EMG inferior court. We are activating our corporation, which will now be a 501c3. It'll be used for development and community services. We're establishing a family self-sufficiency program. We're trying to build community partners. And as I said it before, we're going to use the CASPDC housing study to implement our affordable housing option in Staunton and Augusta County. Lastly, I just want to thank Rebecca. Rebecca has been really helpful. It's not always that you get to work with somebody like that. I know other housing authorities that don't have a housing coordinator that work with them like that. So it's been very helpful to have her. And Leslie has always been available when we applied or when we did our annual plan. She signed off on what we wanted to do. And Amanda too. And Josh, who helped me with doing the video to try to get engagement for commissioners. I don't have anything else unless there's questions.
Questions from council?
I just want
Glad
to
you're
say
here.
thank you, Nehemiah, and good job.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Yep.
It's nice to meet everybody. Hopefully I can meet you personally, individually.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
good. Very good. Thank you for what you're doing. Next item on our agenda is a discussion about the nominations committee process. Ms. Bogart.
I'm going to turn this back over to City Council. I believe this is a continuation of the discussion you all started 2 weeks ago. So,
Yeah, I'd suggested that we give ourselves a little bit more lead time before the actual nominations come out on this. And at this point, but I also understand that we don't want to slow the process any if we can avoid it. And so my suggestion is that we make sure that a complete agenda, including all applicants that are going to be considered, comes out at the same time as the agenda, as our agenda for this meeting comes out. It is, of course, confidential as it has potential applicants or it has applicants on there on it as required, as Mr. Blair has pointed out on that. But no restrictions on when the meeting takes place. But this will give us enough lead time ahead of time so as nominations committee provides recommendations and council votes on those recommendations that we can all make informed choices when we vote.
me.
Did anyone have any issues or?
I just want to stress that this, the confidentiality factor must be maintained. This will not be published in the agenda.
Correct.
As part of the agenda to be discussed in public. You know, we do not want to discourage anybody to apply for our boards and commissions, and we always encourage such a thing. And we want to make sure that we give all applicants the discretion that they need. So we will see it, but we are not to discuss it in public.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
That fine?
I don't have a problem with it.
Good.
We need specific direction.
Well, I think what we're going to have, if that is what we want to
Implement.
record,
Yeah.
then we're going to need a motion at a later meeting.
Okay.
You can't have a motion coming out of a work session,
Yeah, true. Okay. So
but we
we'll
will
move forward with
I'll
that.
write something.
work with,
We can write that up.
I'll
And
write that up.
can put it on consent at the next, if that's okay.
that sounds fine.
I think so. Yeah.
Think so?
I don't think
Yeah.
we can discuss it anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
This
All right.
council
Yeah,
did a
I
good
think
job
we all
of
have an
discussing.
understanding.
that sounds great. All right, thank you for your input, Brad. And that brings us to the next item, which is a closed meeting for the discussion and consideration of a disposition of publicly held real property within Staunton crossings. It includes a break, and we will return at 6:59 to come out of our work session. I will now entertain a motion.
Mayor Claffey, I move to enter a closed meeting for discussion or consideration of the disposition of publicly held real property located at Stanton Crossing, where discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position and or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3.
Thank you very much. There's a motion has been made. Is there a second?
Claffey, I second.
Second by Counselor Wood. Mr. Kessinger, please call the roll.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
See everyone at 6:59.
And a
And
half.
59 seconds.
Here.
All right.
You're back.
It's now time for us to come out of a closed session. Could I please have a motion?
Mayor Claffey,
Counselor Woods.
I move that council reconvene in an open meeting and certify to the best of each member's knowledge and only lawfully exempted public business matters were discussed and that only public business matters as identified in the closed meeting motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Counselor Robertson. Mr. Kessinger, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. And now would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And tonight's invocation moment of silence is brought to you by yours truly.
Oh.
And I thought it would be appropriate that we remember mothers on Mother's Day weekend.
Oh, thank you.
Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for mothers young and old. We pray for all mothers of every kind, for those that have loved us and helped shape us with motherly care and compassion. We remember mothers, grandmothers, and godmothers who are no longer with us, but whose love is in our memory forever. Amen.
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 Thank you, Steve.
All right.
That was deep.
How about mayor's report? I've been doing a lot. And Billy Vaughn sneaked out of here and I told him not to leave. But on Tuesday morning, the chamber had an event up there at the Holiday Inn for breakfast, and we had an opportunity to roast Billy Vaughn. And it was a lot of fun. And we abused him. And I signed up for that several months ago. And, my calendar is always rather heavy, but I said, yes, I'll make time.
Brady wasn't there, was he?
I didn't see him.
That's good.
But it was a good time. Now, Billy Vaughn, by the way, is retiring the end of this month. So if you do see Billy, please wish him well. And I know he's going to have a fine retirement. I attended the Tourism Advisory Board meeting this morning at 9:30. It is a very interesting group of people that do a lot to make this city go. And I will give you some of the things that they brought up this morning in a brief form. The search for the SDDA chair, it continues. We're trying to hire somebody for Stanton Downtown Development. Samantha Johnson was there. It was her first meeting that she's run. She's our new director of tourism, so she was attending and participating. Mary Baldwin graduation is next weekend, not this weekend, but the following one, 10 days away. They reported business is fairly steady in downtown Stanton, but I guess one thing that has offset things was Easter was in March this year, whereas last year was in April. So consequently, the April figures were significantly higher. They are breaking even against the April figures, but they did not have the advantage of spring break and all that this year in April. So they said business is steady and good, but the numbers they were up against for April a year ago were very, very strong. Heifetz is coming to town. They will be arriving June the 10th, and they will be here until 7/27, so there'll be a lot of music in the streets, etc. And there will be, I think they had 160 some have already signed up, so there's going to be a lot of people in Stanton in conjunction with the Heifetz. And then the last thing, they had the beginning of a Stanton QR code. And this guy, Nick Saban from Poe's Bookstore downtown, is putting this together, and he's working on a program, and I think this thing has great potential. Of course, you're going to post this on the side of your, your restaurant, your shop downtown Stanton. And in the event, we see a lot of tourists here on the weekend that come in, and let's say they're roaming around 5, 6 o'clock when you have the outdoor dining to take advantage of, and the shop is closed. You can actually scan that on your phone, see what the inventory is. Some of them have actual tours of the inside of the store, see what type of goods are available. For restaurants that are closed, you'll be able to get the menu and what hours they're going to be open and all sorts of things. So he has just now started to work on it, but I think this is a wonderful thing that we're going to have to get involved in it, and they plan on turning it over, I think, to the SDDA when we have a new chair in charge. But something to support and something new and exciting that's happening in Stanton. So then that was tab this morning. Tomorrow, I will attend Stanton High School Senior Award Ceremony. And my grandson informed me yesterday that we're in the last 2 weeks of school. And so I know that it's hard to believe that school's going to be done by, the 20th, but it's coming. So make sure if you see any seniors to congratulate them. And that's all I have. How about additional items by other members of council?
Mr. Mayor, a couple things. On the 27th, I had the opportunity to attend the Building Bridges community event. They had a lot of different things going on. They had some housing information. They had voter registration. They had information about Uniontown. We got into some lively discussions about events going on and things coming up with that. It was a good event. I'd also like to remind everybody that this Saturday, the 11th, is the mail carrier food drive. So it is time to put out the non-perishables, canned goods, all that, and they will pick it up at your door and go for it. And we were leaders in we won the collection for the town of our size for that last year. So let's try to do it again this Saturday.
I got my bag in the mailbox.
Yeah, me too.
I did too.
Everybody make sure you use that. We're glad to see you here this week. You missed last week's proclamation, huh?
Yeah, we were thinking about you.
We thought about you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other members of council?
So on top of that, what he just said about the putting out the food, some of the counselors had volunteered to go and collect the foods. A good outing on Saturday to do that. Also on Saturday, it's the 5K nourishing strides up at Montgomery Hall Park, provided by Jones Garden. That's this Saturday at 9 o'clock. Also was participated and went to see at the R.R. Smith Center where JMU students, which are architectural, did a lot of plans to revitalize the Wharf parking lot. And if you didn't see it, you missed it. It was really good. It was about 8 different
Plans.
designs.
Designs, yeah.
Designs. 8 different designs, and they was awesome. And if we ever adopt something like that, it would be good to have them design it or pick from one of those designs that they did. It was really
It was
nice.
fascinating.
Yeah, it was. It was really nice.
Mayor Claffey, Councilwoman Woods and I were able to attend the third and final public participation event for our West End revitalization study this past Tuesday at the gym at Gypsy Hill Park. I just want to thank staff and our consultant EPR, but especially staff for all the great work of putting those events together. They were all a little different to encourage public participation, different ways of outreach, and I thought it was very successful. So thank you for that, and I look forward to seeing what all the feedback from the public results in with the draft study in the next month or so, I guess.
Very good. Who else?
Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll just add a little something about the library, as I like to do. Who was there? I think Morgan from the city manager's office, Councilmember Arrowwood, and I were able to go to the opening of the little food pantry at the Staunton Public Library. It is absolutely adorable. This is the 7th and last installment by the Neighbor Bridge, a nonprofit locally, and you'll see it. It's beautiful, and it can be stocked with dry goods and a list of what you can put in there can be found on their website or Facebook page. And so that was a lovely opportunity to be there and celebrate that. I also wanted to add something new at the library. It is it's something called, I'm going to probably ask Randall to help me, the hearing loop. The library, in order to better serve people with hearing loss, has installed something called a hearing loop. So at the reference desk and the checkout desks, if you have a hearing loss and you have hearing aids, there you will see a sign on the glass there by the desk, and it will inform you that you can connect directly with the person at the desk. They know the hearing loop will help them. It's as if the person is talking directly into your ear. Thank you, Mr. Burton, or something like that. So if that is, if you are experiencing hearing loss and you have hearing aids and you do use the library, please go to the reference desk or the checkout desk and learn about that new service. That's all I got.
Maybe you or Randall can, every time I go by, I'll look. Is maybe the Friends of the Library going to start their little project? Because I haven't seen any.
It hasn't started yet. It is in design phase.
I know it.
They're obviously
Mhm.
continuing with design. I
Mhm.
just saw a group out there meeting recently. So
Okay.
wherever they are in
Okay, all right.
I will turn.
I
it
just
over.
always look.
I'll give you an update next time. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. Per procedure memorandum number 14 is the policy of City Council to have routine, non-controversial items placed on a consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be voted on in one motion. If a separate discussion is requested, that item shall be removed and considered separately. During our approval of the agendas for tonight's meeting, Councilor Woods had a proposed motion that the council remove item A3 from the agenda and that council consider this proposed memorandum of procedure as well as all other memorandum of procedure at the January 2025 Staunton City Council reorganizational meeting. So therefore, that item will not be voted on tonight with the consent agenda. But the consent agenda will pertain to the approval of minutes, consider a resolution approving City Council summer meeting schedule, and the consideration of proclamation to be presented in council chambers at the May 23rd, 2024 meeting. So I will entertain a motion for the revised consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I move to approve the consent agenda as, excuse me,
as amended.
as amended. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Campbell. Mr. Kester, please call the roll.
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. And that brings us to the first item on the meeting, which is a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance authorizing the lease agreement between the City of Staunton and Staunton Baseball, Inc. for the limited use of the baseball field and operation of concession rights. Mr. Blair.
I'll try to touch all the bases on this item.
Oh,
Oh, God.
funds are out tonight, folks.
God,
All right.
boner.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. Before you tonight is the annual lease for Staunton Baseball, for the Staunton Braves to use Moxie Field. The lease will run from May 20th through August the 10th. They will be using it for baseball operations as they have done in the past. Additionally, this year, I believe there are going to be 6 musical events that precede games. So that'll be a new feature. I know in the past, questions have arisen when I've presented this item about alcoholic beverages. The lease does address that, and it puts the responsibility on the lessee to get all the appropriate permits and compliance with state and federal and local laws. Is someone from the Braves? Don't think so, not tonight. But I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Questions from council? In which case, I'm going to open it in a moment. I'll open up the public hearing. Is it time that council sets aside to hear from citizens about this specific topic only? We ask that you please give your name, your address, keep your remarks at 5 minutes or less. For our Zoom participants, please raise your hand now if you wish to speak on this particular public hearing. If you raise your hand during this public hearing, you will also be able to raise your hand during the council meetings for other public hearings as well as matters from the public. Once everyone has had an opportunity to speak, I will close the public hearing. The public hearing is open. Would anyone like to speak about the Braves issue? Mr. Kester, we have anybody on the phone?
Yes, sir, we do.
Caller, go ahead.
This is Brenda Mead, Sherwood Avenue, Staunton. So this issue has come up every year, and I support having the Braves baseball here in Staunton. However, City Council has issued an RFP to spend $1.2 million on renovating Moxie Stadium. And my understanding was that that the Braves were going to be asked to support that in some way financially so that the citizens of Staunton weren't on the hook for that. And this is a rhetorical question. And for those who don't know what a rhetorical question is, it's one that's simply asked, not for the purpose of getting an answer, because I don't want to have my hand slapped for asking a question during a period when I'm not supposed to. But I'd like to know where we are with respect to getting the Staunton Braves to support and provide financing for the renovation of Moxie Stadium. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this issue? Mr. Custer, you have anyone else?
No, sir, I have no one with their hand raised.
All right, the public hearing is now concluded. I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Claffey? I move that City Council adopt the ordinance authorizing approval of the lease agreement between the City of Staunton and Staunton Baseball, Inc. for the limited use of the baseball field and operation of concession rights beginning May 20th, 2024, and further authorizing the city manager be authorized to execute the lease agreement with such modifications and in final form as approved by the city attorney.
All right, a motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Edwards. Mr. Custer, could you call the roll, please?
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Excellent. All right. And now the next item is a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement between the City of Staunton and Happy Birthday America Incorporated. Mr. Blair.
Thank you, Mayor Claffey, Council. Again, this is a public hearing and item for your consideration for a lease for Happy Birthday America to use Gypsy Hill Park from June 30th to July 5th is to organize and put on the annual 4th of July celebration. I do think there are representatives from Happy Birthday America here if you have any questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Councilors have any questions? Please come forward and let's tell us what you all have got planned for us this year. We're excited and looking forward to it as always.
Thank you, Mr.
Welcome,
Mayor, and the fine women and men of the council. Appreciate it. My name is Langdon Reed, and longtime Staunton resident here. Thank you all for the opportunity and the time here tonight to present this. This celebration, it's a two-day celebration, July 3rd and 4th, and it has been going on for about 55 years now. And it's dear to me personally and my cousin, Will Reed. We make up the country music duo of Wilson Fairchild. Our fathers are the members of the Statler Brothers, and they started this celebration on July 3rd and 4th in 1970. And it really, to be succinct but yet thorough with this, they were riding around Gypsy Hill Park in 1969, and there was nothing going on. The park was just pretty much dead. And they thought, you know what? We need to do something over here, celebrate America, bring the community together. And at that time also, it was perfect for them in their stage of the career to give back to Staunton because of the support that Staunton had given them in their career thus far, and they wanted to do that as well. So they created this event, and it's for charities, nonprofits to come out, sell your food, sell your products, games, whatever it is for, again, for the community to benefit, and also to celebrate the freedoms of America at this time as well. So it has been a tradition. They did this celebration for 25 years. And then I believe America's Birthday Celebration was a committee that took over in 1995, went all the way up to 2017. And then my cousin and I got back into it and felt the call to step in as well and continue it on. And with Happy Birthday America, we've got a wonderful organization of volunteers, committee members who volunteer their time, energy, and talent for this. And I just want to say thank you also to the city, starting right here with the council as well. We have monthly meetings in planning this all year long. And we hold hands and have a great partnership with all the departments, from the police to the fire, tourism, Parks and Rec, and right on down to everybody involved to make this a successful event. And we're excited to be a part of it, again, to give back to the community as well as celebrate America at the time. So on July 3rd, we have a Vesper service. We're bringing in a national act, Jeff and Sherry Easter. They are a Southern gospel music act, so they'll be here that night along with some other local acts as well. And then on July the 4th, it goes from, a 5K to the parade around the park. Then we have live music on the stage at the baseball field, and then all day long. Then 7:30, Wilson Fairchild will play music. Our guest this year, special musical guest, is Wade Hayes, country music artist from the 90s and the 2000s. He will be here, and then of course we have our veterans salute that night. We have local veterans come up and we honor them as they represent the branches of the service. And then we end the night with a wonderful fireworks show. So that's kind of where we are, what we're doing. And we, again, last year, I believe, Andrew Dietz, the president of HBA, is here as well. I think over 2-day event, we had somewhere around 25,000 people. So we are excited to be doing it again, as well as giving back to the community also. That's it.
Well, thank you. Andrew, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, Mayor Claffey, if you don't mind. Langdon did a great job. This is one of the few times I get to say he opened up for me. But figure I'd carry the puns.
Everyone's a comedian.
So Andrew Dietz, Honorable Mayor Claffey, members of council, city staff, just to echo what Langdon said, we, on behalf of Happy Birthday America, we are a nonprofit, all volunteer organization, great group of people, and we could not be more excited, more appreciative of all the partnership, as Langdon mentioned, with the city of Staunton. It's a wonderful partnership and collaboration. And the buzz this year, it's been growing over the last several years since we've kind of come back from COVID, but the buzz so far this year is really something else. And we're getting tons of vendor applications in, tons of parade applications in. Everybody's really excited about it. So we thank you for your time and all your energy towards it as well, and appreciate your consideration for us.
Thank you. We can't appreciate you enough.
Yep. We are looking forward to it.
Questions or comments from council?
Oh, just looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
It'd be nice if you could do something about the weather, make it not so hot that day. It always seems to be the hottest day of the year, right? It's always the hottest day of the year.
Bubble over the.
That's what makes it the 4th of July. It's the hottest day of the year. All right, I'm going to open a public hearing to discuss this matter. And anyone who would like to come to the podium or call in on the Zoom line, please do so at this time. Public hearing is open. Would anyone like to speak? Mr. Kester, we got anybody on the phone?
No, sir, I have no one with their hands raised.
Nobody wants to talk about Happy Birthday USA?
It's all been said.
Very good. Public hearing is over. Thank you very much,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Robertson.
I move that City Council adopt the ordinance authorizing the approval of the lease agreement between the City of Staunton and Happy Birthday America, Inc., and further authorizing the city manager to execute the lease agreement with such modifications and in final form as approved by the city attorney.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Well, I'll second.
Second back to Councilor Woods. Mr. Kester, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Miss Woods.
Aye.
Miss Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Look forward to it.
We're excited. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing and consideration of a request by Christy Crittenden for a special use permit under the provisions of Staunton City Code 18.30.030-8 for an additional dwelling unit at 208 North Market Street. Ms. Berger.
So I am proud to introduce Tim Hartless to the podium. He was recently promoted to planning manager. So congratulations, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
So he had the pleasure of coming to these meetings, maybe every single meeting. So anyway, welcome. Thank you. He will be presenting this tonight.
Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. This is a special use permit for Ms. Christy Crittenden, 208 North Market Street for an accessory dwelling unit. 208 North Market Street is located in the block between Academy and Prospect Streets. And it's also part of our Stewart Addition Historic District. Ms. Crittenden approached our office about the possibility of getting a building permit to do an addition to the rear of her home. This home actually already contains a basement apartment. Staff did some research, but we were never able to find any evidence that there was a permit issued for that basement unit. We know that it existed since at least 1992, but we're not sure when it was created or how it was created. So we recommended to her that she apply for a special use permit so that we could make this basement apartment a permitted use. That would then allow us to issue a building permit for the rear addition that they wish to construct. The zoning is R4 high density residential. That does allow for multifamily use, but the density limitations require that the lot be at least 9,000 square feet. This lot is just over 5,000 square feet, so it's not large enough to do it as a by right use. So the special use permit was really the only option. There is some criteria in the zoning code to use when evaluating these requests. The home must contain at least 3,001 square feet of net floor area. This home contains 3,163 square feet. There are no additional parking spaces required for only one accessory unit. So parking is not an issue. Planning Commission held a public hearing at its April 18th meeting, and no one spoke in opposition. And they unanimously recommended approval of this request with some conditions. The first being that the total number of residential units including the primary dwelling unit, may not exceed 2. Second, the property is located in the Stewart Addition Historic District, and a certificate of appropriateness is required prior to the issuance of any building permits. Third, building and trade permits will be required, and all work must be done in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code. And finally, access to the basement apartment to unit will be from the rear or the side of the building, where it is less visible from the street. No access would be permitted from the front of the building. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Ms. Crittenden is also here, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council?
Tim, I heard you say that overall the only aspect of this that doesn't match is the overall lot size. So the house itself by the usual by right is large enough, you said, by about 100 square feet.
Right. So that square footage for the house only applies for the special use permit. To be a by right use, if the lot were 9,000 square feet, then it would be a permitted use.
Right. Okay. I have no issue with it personally.
Ms. Crittenden, would you like to come forward and say a few words?
Christy Crittenden, 208 North Market Street.
Well,
thank you. My husband and I we moved here in 2019. The apartment was in use at the time, and we've made it into we wanted to have space for our adult children to visit, but we didn't need it full time. So we do use it as a little bit of an Airbnb space. And we've used it since we moved here for that purpose. I've checked with all the neighbors before I moved in, even to kind of let them know what we were doing. And since then, with the changes that we're pursuing now, I've gotten rather strong support from my neighbors. I am choosing to do this because we wanted to live out. So we want to put a bedroom on the main floor so that we can stay in the home for a long period of time. So any questions?
Questions from council? No, very good.
A good plan.
All right.
I'm sorry, I just said it sounds like a good plan.
No, thank you.
Look.
All right, well, let me open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Anyone would like to speak on the 208 North Market Street addition? Anyone in the audience?
All right.
Mr. Kester, we have anybody on the phone?
Yes, sir.
Caller, go ahead.
This is Brenda Mead on Sherwood Avenue. I support the application, and I believe it's important in a city our size with such limited expansion opportunities for housing that we allow this sort of thing in dense neighborhoods to expand housing opportunities. Thank you.
Anyone else, Mr. Kester?
No, sir. I have no one else with their hand raised.
Anyone else like to speak? The public hearing is now over. I will now entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
I move that the council adopt the resolution and approve the special use permit as recommended by the planning commission.
All right, so I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Campbell. Mr. Kester, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good. Moving right along, we have another public hearing. In consideration of a request by the city of Staunton to rezone properties on National Avenue, Patton Street, Jones Street, and Anthony Street from R2 low density residential, I1 light industrial, I2 heavy industrial to TRD1 traditional residential development district. Ms. Berger,
Rodney Rhodes, Director of Community Development, will walk through this item this evening.
welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Claffey, City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening.
You have to teach Mr. Hartless that line.
Okay. Before I get started, I would note the city has, over the past 8-10 years, done quite a few mass rezonings in the cities. And all the previous mass rezonings, the mayor had to read the addresses of all the 30 to 40 properties that were being considered for rezoning. But we saved you from that this evening, Mayor Claffey.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
No, thank you.
I would note that rezoning of this area known as Uniontown has been in the works for several years. I know the residents and property owners would say it's many decades overdue. But several years ago, the Planning Commission and staff worked on a proposed rezoning of this property in accordance with the comprehensive plan to R2 single-family residential. There was some concerns at that time as far as what the implications would be for rezoning it by some of the residents and property owners in that area. So the city undertook the first comprehensive review and a plan for that area. And that was the Uniontown Neighborhood Action Plan, which was authorized and approved by funding by City Council. And in December of 23, that was adopted by Council as an addendum to the comprehensive plan. And one of the action items, I believe there are 19 action items in that plan, called for the creation of a new zoning district that would meet the specific needs of Uniontown to help it redevelop as an area with single-family homes. That was one of the positives that came out of this plan, one of the many positives. We determined that a lot of the lots in that community don't meet the minimum lot size or setback requirements for the R2 district, which was previously planned for this area several years ago. So staff worked with the Plan Commission to create a traditional residential development district. We call that TRD1. And in February, City Council unanimously voted to approve that district. And now we are before you with rezoning of the properties to that new district. The Plan Commission conducted a public meeting in March at the public library to gather input on the rezoning. And at that time, it was well attended, that public meeting. We did have a request at that time to add one property to our proposed rezoning and to remove 3 parcels. That's not unusual. In all of our other mass rezonings, we've had people opt out of rezoning. We've always offered that as an option. And if you had a chance to look at your emails this evening, you will realize that we also received a request to remove several more properties from this rezoning. And those are 803 Richmond Avenue, 813 Richmond Avenue, 1813 Richmond Avenue, 880, 884, 886 Jones Street, and 204 and 208 National Avenue. Mr. Kesker, if you could show the next slide. Those are shown two different ways. Those that are cross-hatched between Jones Avenue and Richmond Avenue, those are industrial, and the current owners would like to continue that as industrial property. And then very late this afternoon, we had a request to remove two more properties from the rezoning, and those are crossed out with the yellow X's on National Avenue. So that is where we stand now. That is what is before you tonight. There is an amended motion for your consideration, an amended ordinance also for your consideration with this rezoning. I like to focus on the positives of this proposed rezoning and not dwell on these late minute changes. Of course, the owners of these properties can always come back and request a rezoning to this district if they see fit. They would have to go through the established process and pay the fees associated with that, but that is still an option for these other parcels. But what does this mean for the remaining 55 parcels? What are the benefits of this rezoning? And currently, if there's a house on one of these lots, it's considered non-conforming, and you're very restricted what you can do with a non-conforming structure on a lot. For one, it's very hard to get financing to make improvements to your property or to acquire the property because it's non-conforming. You cannot add on to a non-conforming structure. You could not add an addition to one of these houses. You couldn't add a porch. You couldn't add an accessory structure either, such as a detached garage or a shed. So there are benefits to this rezoning. I would also note that due to the size of most of these lots, the current zoning, most of it's either light or heavy industrial district. It's impractical to do anything with the lots as they are currently zoned. So there are benefits in that regard. Also, for these vacant lots, although, as we know, they do not have public sewer, but if you can get a septic permit and a well permit, if there's no public water, you could build a dwelling on these houses. So that's even before public sewer gets out there. So there are many benefits of going through this rezoning at this time. And of course, the city is looking at other improvements in the years to come in this area. And I would note the Plan Commission conducted a public hearing on this at their April 18th meeting. No one spoke in opposition to the request, and 5 individuals spoke in favor of the request. And on a 5-0 vote, the commission unanimously voted to recommend approval of the rezoning. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have at this time or after you conduct a public hearing. Mr. Hartless also can help answer any questions you may have or correct any mistakes I make.
Questions from council? I have one. I mean, based on the fact that in today's email, we got, what, 7 or 8
Completions from.
yes, people that are interested. Was everyone notified, all property owners? Did they get a mailing, I assume?
Yes, sir. Mr. Hartless sent those notices to all the property owners. This, as you know, has been in the works for months.
I'm well aware of that. I'm just marveling at the fact that 8 of them came through today.
And that is from 2 property owners, though, that own those 8 parcels.
Once we approve this tonight, then any further revisions to this would have to go through the rezoning process?
Yes, sir. This is a rezoning process. This just is a mass rezoning of multiple properties.
So there isn't like a 30-day period?
No, sir. As you may recall, last month you've rezoned a property on Calvert Street, I believe.
Yes.
That was just a one-off. So that something like that could happen on these properties.
Do you anticipate any other landowners wanting to opt out?
If this is adopted tonight, that would not be an option for them. They could come back and say, okay, I want to rezone it from this new district to whatever. I mean, that's a possibility. I think it's highly unlikely, but they have been informed of this for months of this proposed rezoning.
Oh, I'm aware. It's been going on. Yes.
Plenty of public.
Yes. All right. Any other questions? All right, in which case, let us open the public hearing on the matter of the Uniontown mass rezoning. Would anyone from the audience like to speak? Please go ahead. Welcome.
My name is Jason Earhart. I live at 29 Birchwood Road. It's actually in Fishersville, but one of the owners of Staunton Machine Works. I've got a letter here, and I apologize, I forget the gentleman's name. Some of the properties that are on this letter that one of the owners asked me to read actually are removed now, which is kind of ironic. And I just talked to him a few hours ago. This is a letter from Steve Earhart and Alan Dahl. Apparently, Mr. Dahl's out of the area. He's helping his daughter, couldn't make the meeting. Same with my uncle, and he couldn't make it. So I said, well, yeah, give me the letter, and I'll read it tonight. It's addressed to Mr. Tim Hartless. Dear Tim, I'm writing this on behalf of the Dahl family and Staunton Machine Works regarding the proposed zoning of Uniontown area off of Richmond Road. Between Staunton Machine Works and various Dahl family partnerships, we control all but one property of the area on the west end of Patton Street and south of Jones Street that you were proposing to rezone. While we understand and agree with returning the plotted lots on Patton Street and the eastern portion of Jones Street to single-family residential, we do not think that this is an appropriate use for the properties that we own. We would request that you remove 813 Richmond Road, 803 Richmond Road, 813 Richmond Road, 886 Jones Street, and 884 Jones Street, and typo there, 880 Jones Street from this proposed rezoning. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm not sure how many of those have been removed, but I'd have to look at the map and get my head wrapped around it. I'd like to elaborate on some of that. We've got a lot of property that's going to be affected. We've got 5 lots on Anthony Street, 2 lots on Young, 4 on National Avenue, 1 on Jones Street, and 6 on Richmond Avenue. These are properties that are zoned industrial, except for 4 of them that are on Richmond Road, and we had them rezoned to business here several years ago, and it was something that we requested. It's where Helmuth Builders, their storage sheds are. Now, not all of the properties that I just mentioned are on the latest, because I think there's been 3, I believe, proposed rezoning map, but all of them are going to be affected. And when I say they're going to be affected, if you look at the comprehensive plan in light industrial property, these areas, land and structures used for light manufacturing, wholesaling, warehousing, and other suitable uses where the use and operation do not adversely affect adjacent uses, policies. Encourage a variety of light industrial businesses to locate within the city. And now here's the sticking point with me. Locate light industrial uses near major arterial roads to avoid traffic through nearby residential neighborhoods. On the north sides of the tracks, the proposed zoning is going to put neighborhood zoning between our property and the only access that we have, which is going to be North Frontier Drive. We used to have, as well as everyone, unrestricted access to the industrial park at the end of Anthony Street, and the city closed that off a few years ago. We were able to meet with some people, and we had to get an attorney involved, but we were able to get permission to install a gate, and we use that on a regular basis to access, our properties, just because of trying not to I negotiate. They got a lot of construction going on up there near the quarry, and it's hard to get through there with tractor trailers sometimes. But this move will handcuff any future developments of our lots because the way I'm understanding it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the city's not going to approve any kind of site plan for developing our industrial property when considering that large delivery trucks are going to be driving through that area and it's going to be zoned residential. So even though our property is not getting rezoned itself, we're going to have to drive through a residential section. And my understanding is it's like, well, shoot, we might as well be getting rezoned because it's basically going to kill it. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the area. If you look at Google Maps, say 10 years ago, it was wooded. There was structures falling down. I mean, trash everywhere, a lot of trees, knocking houses over. We got all that cleaned up and there's not a tree on the property now. And we had plans. I mean, this isn't something that we just, on a willy-nilly whim, just woke up one day and decided. We've been buying property in the area since my grandfather ran everything, so close to 40 years. And depending on what our financial situation is like, we go through and we try to develop or fix up some of these properties. All right, we brought this up at the first meeting when we first heard about it several years ago, and most of our properties were removed from the list. But unless I'm mistaken, that doesn't matter because, if it's rezoned, our property is going to remain vacant because of an accessibility issue. South side of the tracks is the same thing. Our business lots will be unable to expand. When Helmuth first moved in, they took one lot, and then now they have expanded to 4. That's why we had the lots rezoned. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 more lots there. If you ever wanted to expand, zoning that to residential is going to stop that from happening. Now that's been taken off of the rezoning map, as of tonight. We bought this property specifically because of the zoning. If it was any of this stuff was zoned residential, we weren't interested. We just wanted industry or business properties. Let's see here. My thought is the city needs to refocus the rezoning efforts just on the residential. My mouth is getting so dry. I'm having a time with this. Where the houses are. And I understand that. If we own property there, if I live there, I can see where that would be a good move for the residents in that area, which is right off of National Avenue before you get to where the bridge was. I think that they need to focus on that area. And that's initially what began the discussion. I can see where that's a needed move, but not the industrial properties, especially the ones that the owners do not want, or it's going to impede on us. I'm going to run out there and get a drink. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney, could you and Mr. Harless come up? I'm under the impression that the Helmuth storage sheds, which are located beside the pawn shop,
Right,
are currently in a business classification, correct? Because they face Richmond Avenue. Helmuth buildings.
I know those buildings. I can't place it on this map, but
shop.
Yes, I'm positive those are zoned
Convenience store.
B2
It's
general
B2.
business.
It's B2.
All of that is B2.
Yes, sir.
And that is not going to be affected by this. Now, down the hill, behind all of those buildings that we just discussed, is the part that was just pulled out of the residential zoning.
Yes, sir. Those are the 6 lots that were read in that letter just a few minutes ago. And now we had a subsequent letter to that added those additional lots that are on.
Across from the National Cemetery.
Yes, sir.
Where are that? All right. That's where the X's are. Yes, that's the Nationals. Could you show Mr. Earhart on the map that there is going to still be business use allowed along Richmond Avenue, and those properties behind him are not going to be in the residential category?
I'd be glad to, Mayor. These parcels in red are zoned commercial, and they are not being proposed for any kind of change.
Correct.
And these are the 6 lots right in this area that were in that letter.
Correct.
That
they're now exempted from the residential.
And these were the two additional lots that Mr. Dahl asked in a subsequent letter to also be removed. Now, you mentioned about access to commercial property back here, I guess on Anthony Street. It's not, obviously, it's not ideal to drive through a residential area to get to an industrial area. We have it in the city, though, currently. And that would not preclude you from applying for a site plan to develop those lots. So it's not good planning practice to have those competing land uses, but it's not prohibited to do so. There are some additional setbacks if your industrial property adjoins a lesser intense use such as a residential district. And Mr. Hartless, I'm sure he can tell you exactly what those additional setbacks are or buffer requirements, but that's the limiting factor.
We got one lot I see there, I guess it's 882. And on top of that, don't have my glasses on. That's encompassed in that area that was up to get J right there.
This one, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That's I believe that might be Gaines. That's Gaines, Mr. Gaines over there.
That's the only one that's not been taken out.
Here's my question. It's going to be residential. So now the lot to the left is we own on Jones Street.
That's 884?
Yes, sir. Okay, we're not going to be able to do much of anything as far as expansion or doing any kind of develop. It's not big enough and it's going to be zoned industry. And where, at least my understanding is, if it's next to a residential area and we want to put something there, now we've got different setbacks we have to meet, you know, because of screening and such. And it was bought because of specifically because of the zoning. And that's where Mr. Dahl and my uncle know each other real well, because his property to the left, he's going to have the same concerns. In other words, just doing a spot in the middle is going to restrict what our ability to be able to use it as industrial property on both sides.
Are 884 and 886 owned by the same person?
We own 884, 886, I believe, is Mr. Dahl. Yeah, let's not have. Mr. Dahl.
It is my understanding that Mr. Dahl owns that.
886, but not, yeah. And then do you own 880?
Mine. Do you have an extra?
Said no.
It's in this.
No, we don't.
And Dahl, somebody owns it because it's in here.
I think Dahl owns that one.
Dahl owns that one too.
That's service.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Dahl is going to own 880, and then he's going to own
Right.
the opposite side 380.
I don't know.
Mr. Earhart, let me ask you this. I mean, if it's for business
minute.
purposes and it's something that business wants that bad, what is stopping you from making a nice offer to the gentleman that owned 882 and buy the property?
Then the whole zone would be contiguous.
I have to ask my uncle. That's something that has been discussed. Usually we're structured funny, okay?
I understand.
They send me to city council meetings and then make me work throughout the day and then.
Yeah.
To Julius Gaines.
I know he has talked with a lot of different people about purchasing some of the lots. Naturally, we'd love to have that entire parcel. We could do a lot with it.
Sure,
And
exactly.
you know, we had plans and we planned all this stuff out on the Anthony. I mean, it took a lot of effort to get all that stuff cleaned up. You know, we'd like to do the same thing. That's what we did. There was 2 buildings, and I know his name's failing me right now, but he kept bugging me about, you know, we need to tear this down. And we finally got the buildings down where it helped. And it's been a good move. I mean, we got the business, you know,
Right.
zoning changed, and we would like to expand that. So yeah, that's definitely
we would.
Yeah, I mean,
consider that off.
you know, for a business, that's probably, I mean, happens in every city around America, is that somebody's in the way of business doing something, but you just make them a nice enough offer if you can convince them, but.
Yes, yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, this isn't an us matter, that part.
Correct.
Except if y'all change the zoning, we're not gonna be interested in it.
Yeah.
Right. And did you all have an idea of what you were putting there, or is it big enough to actually?
Got both properties we could, but they're getting into a lot of, it's kind of like one thing I did pick up on, and I understand the reason to change it to traditional zoning, the zoning change altogether.
Yeah.
From what they were originally slated, because the setbacks can't meet the setbacks.
Right.
And obviously somebody saw whatever I did. I'm not sure about what the restrictions could be, but I know
it's outside of this.
We're not interested in residential, that's for sure.
Right.
And I think most of the residential is around the Patton Street and the Jones Street with the smaller lots in it. And we understand that that's the section we want to go forward with. And we can see that the sites that you have are larger and, closer to Richmond Avenue, more in that realm.
Now, we had just entertained the idea about the access down on the step. One side, because I mean, we've been like 25 years, something like that. And we were able to get a gate put in, but that kind of, I don't know what the restrictions are on the gate. It's a unique situation. We're able to use it, but I don't know if we could pass that on to somebody if they wanted to. Great to be able to gain access to Statler Boulevard. That I really wouldn't be too concerned with, whatever the property owners up here in this residential section on Anthony Street, it's not going to inhibit us. I'm just worried about it restricting us too much.
Is that quarry property?
It's not a quarry property. It's I want to say Con Construction is. I know they have a building there. I'm not sure if they own it or.
There, yeah.
And there's been discussions had that I was not privy. I just don't know where we are at on any of the information at all. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm usually last kind of find out anything.
The lot 901, the one right beside the one that's hashed off.
It's on Jones Street by Young's, going down there towards Young Street.
Is that theirs? It's
901, 905.
It's teal color. It's like it's red in front.
I'm sorry,
It's
a little tiny
the
triangle,
piece that's
like
outside
a
of the
cute
rezoning
triangle.
request.
Yeah, right there.
The mixed zoning parcel.
Come back.
Yeah. This right here?
No, come back down.
Up
a little. Come back
Right here?
there.
I believe that is owned by Mr. Dahl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He also owns parcels that are his own business that are to the left of that.
Any particular request you have, Mr. Earhart, of City Council? I mean, we're tasked with the mass rezoning issue, and I can see you have a unique situation with regards to property 882 being surrounded by other ones that are in much larger tracts.
Mayor Claffey?
Yes.
Can I suggest that we continue with the public hearing, and then if we have questions at the end, we can discuss them or break into recess if need be?
Yes, let's hear what everybody else has to say. Appreciate your time, Mr. Earhart. But let me open this public hearing. And this is for a matter of talking about the Uniontown proposed rezoning. The public hearing is now open. Would anyone like to speak? Please go ahead.
Hi, Zach Lewis, 904 Rockaway Street. It's amazing. For 2 years, we've been working on this. 2 years, and here in the 11th hour, you get objections to it. People come up, well, we don't want to do this. We want to opt out. But we knew this for 2 years and nobody said anything. These folks have been locked out from the city services for 75 years. If you don't pass it tonight, then they'll be locked out forever. I have a dream. Did you guys see the plans that the group from Charlottesville did? The renditional drawings of what it could look like after the. All they want is to have the same thing that you, I, and other areas. I don't live there. I have no contact. I did know one gentleman back in 1950 something. My father was renting a house from, and he lived on National Avenue. I cannot remember his name. I implore you guys to pass this. We can't let just a couple people dropping out. These folks need that. They want this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, Steve Paulson, 315 Sherwood Avenue. I don't know why Mr. Dahl X'd out those particular lots because he actually gave us permission to stage one of our events on that one that's right across from National Cemetery. He was talking with Ophi Kyer previously about this. So yeah, obviously this has been going on for a long time. The residents here would like to be able to, just get a loan on their house, so they can make improvements. So right now they can't build a deck, they can't fix their roof. This rezoning will allow them to, the few residents that are there will allow them to, legally make improvements to their property. Go to the bank and get a loan. In the future, obviously we're hopeful that there's going to be septic and water that they can hook up to. This has been going on for a long time. I was kind of wondering about this the entire time. I mean, obviously, that there were a couple large landowners that had property there. I thought as this process went on, some concerns would get raised, but there'll be access to those. Well, first of all, I don't know if this is we need to. This doesn't seem like the appropriate place to actually be doing this. We've been talking about this for the past year. Those lots, there'll be access some way or another. I do want you to protect the residents once you do this, because one of the fears I've had the entire time is that we were going to do this rezoning and say Mr. Gaines' this property there, which I do not think he's going to want to sell, quite frankly. And I don't know how much money you can offer him, but my guess is he's not going to want to sell. This is just history rewriting itself. This is basically residents of a place that want to live their lives, that were trying as best they could in the 50s and 60s to do the right thing, that got, pushed aside by people who didn't listen to them. So I would like to see the mass rezoning done certainly for the areas that people can opt out is great, that they can protect their interests is fine. After you do the rezoning, I'm hoping that you're going to protect the residential nature of this community. Yeah, continue to support it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor Claffey, we have someone on Zoom.
Welcome. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Angela Lyman. I live on 813 Patton Street, which is a dead end, and I love my home. I moved there September of 22. I had to buy a house because I could not afford apartment rent because I had a golden retriever and 2 cats, and I also have a grandson that lives with me every other week. I love my home. I was led to believe by the realtors that it was going to be rezoned to residential. And I mean, I can't even put a deck on because of the zoning problem. And I have a septic tank. I've already had Campbell's come twice. I can't afford that, keep having them come. And I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful place there. And we want it to be nice. And we want it for people to have their homes there and to come back and have their homes there if they want to do that, because they can't do that right now because they can't borrow money because it's in residential zoning. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Caller, go ahead, please.
This is Brenda Mead, Sherwood Avenue, Stanton. Well, first of all, I'd like to understand why we're negotiating these issues during a public hearing. And any negotiations that need to occur should have happened already. So, and why are these issues being raised now? And they weren't raised during the planning commission process. I'd like to note that the speakers, when they speak not in front of the microphone, can't be heard from those of us who are on Zoom. And I don't think that, I think that people need to understand that all of this stuff about changing in zoning and the legislature that allows us to waive fees for water and sewer hookups, that's all great. But at the end of the day, the city has to allocate money to providing sewer and good water to the residents of Uniontown. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
My name is Robert Stewart. I live at 212 Surrey Road, Stanton, Virginia. I grew up in Uniontown. For the last 35 years, I've been trying to go back to my hometown to build a house, and they wouldn't let me. My son has a house down there. They wouldn't let him put a roof and construct his house down there. So this is something that I've been waiting for this long. I still want to go back down and build on my grandparents' land that I have down there. Everything keeps getting shoved back. It seems like you see some daylight and then all of a sudden it's gone. The young lady said, okay, if we had a problem, we've had 5 meetings. It's already should have been up with 5 meetings. You're not gonna miss all 5 of them. So, now that we're on the edge and the verge of making something happen, then people try to stop it. But just like I said, my sister been trying to build down there. So just like I said, I was born and raised in Uniontown. I'm just trying to get back to Uniontown to finish out the rest of my life down in Uniontown. So hopefully we continue and pass this because it's a long time coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Anyone else, Mr. Kessinger?
No, sir, I have no one with their hand.
Anyone else like to speak on the issue?
I'm sorry, Mayor Claffey. Actually, we have 2 hands raised.
Caller, go ahead, please. Caller, go ahead, please.
Yes, my name is Barbara Lee. And, we've been working on this Uniontown for 2 solid years. Now, all of a sudden, the planning commission is getting ready to go down there and zone it. Where were these people 2 years ago when we were working on this? This is typical Stanton. Unnerves me. Thank you.
You, someone else, Mr. Kessinger?
Yes, sir.
Caller, go ahead, please.
Okay, hi. My name is Linda Shalish. I live on Spring Hill Road. And I have to piggyback on what Barbara Lee said, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Paulson, and Stewart, and all those people. Where have these people been all this time? I mean, even I've been working on this Uniontown thing with building bridges. And I've been going to meetings like every Monday. And we've been talking about, we had all these things going on, and everybody's involved. And all of a sudden, out of the woodwork, where have these people been for the past 2 years? Sorry, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak from the audience? Mr. Kessinger, you got anybody else?
No, sir, I have no one with their hand raised.
All right. The public hearing is now over. Any further comments from council?
I would like to make a motion.
All right.
Okay. I do this as I saw the city planning commission as well. I move that council adopt the revised ordinance rezoning 55 properties as recommended by the planning commission with the omission of the 8 properties which have been withdrawn.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Edwards has second. Mr. Kester, please call the roll.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell. Aye. Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. I just want everyone to realize that that was a unanimous vote. We have to give everyone their due. But we have been working on this nonstop for 2 years, and let's appreciate the fact that we are making progress. City government is not as fast as we would always like it to be, but we are working our way towards this noble goal. Now that brings up a public hearing and consideration of amendments to the Staunton City Code, Chapters 18.140, signs, billboards, and other advertising structures, 18.65 B3, Planned Business District, 18.70 B4, Cultural and Recreation Planned Business District, 18.71 B5, Mixed Use Business District, and 18.100 I3, Planned Industrial District of Title 18 zoning of the Staunton City Code, establishing a standard minimum required setback of 5 feet for freestanding signs for all businesses, professional, and industrial districts. That was a mouthful.
Phew, that was a lot.
I'm sorry. I
Could you add some more there, John?
I couldn't. I couldn't
I'm
hear you,
gonna,
Mr. Mayor.
I'm gonna ask Tim Hartless to repeat that. No, he's actually gonna talk about it now.
Welcome, Mr. Hartless.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is a pleasure for me to be here with you tonight.
Well said. Well said.
He's a fast learner.
So the city's sign regulations and our zoning code create setback requirements for signs that are based upon the different districts in which the sign is located. So every district has a different setback, and they range from 2.5 feet in a B2 district to 17.5 feet in an I2 heavy industrial district. So staff proposed that we come up with a standard 5-foot setback requirement, which would apply to all signs in all business, industrial, and professional districts throughout the city. And we presented that idea to the Planning Commission at their March meeting, and they gave authorization for us to proceed with drafting the amendment. And at that time, they voiced some concerns about setbacks from commercial parking lot entrances and how the sign might hinder sight lines at those entrances where motorists are attempting to pull out in the traffic. At our intersections of 2 streets, we have a triangle, a sight distance triangle, where nothing is allowed to obstruct sight lines above 2.5 feet or below 10 feet. So it creates this clear window where someone at the intersection could see both directions down the street. So staff looked at applying that same triangle to these parking lot entrances, and this diagram illustrates how that would work. And the triangle is a 15-foot right triangle. And when you place a sign so that it does not encroach in that triangle, it has to have a 10-foot setback from the parking lot entrance. And staff was concerned that that 10-foot setback was too restrictive because there was a chance that it could prohibit a business owner on a small lot from being able to have a freestanding sign. Say, Esther, can you move to the next one more, please? So this aerial photograph is of a piece of business property. It's actually zoned professional. It's in McTanley Place. And it's a large commercial lot, but then it kind of has this pipe stem that comes out to McTanley. And you can see where I measured the width of the pipe stem at 45 feet. And I measured the width of the driveway at 24 to 25 feet. And that leaves about 10 feet on each side of the driveway. So if we required a larger setback, like a 10-foot or a 15-foot setback for a sign from an entrance, in this situation, this property would be prohibited from being able to have a freestanding sign. So staff proposed a 5-foot setback from the parking lot entrance, which matches the 5-foot setback that we proposed from all other property lines. Thinking that this would be an easy number for sign designers and property owners and developers and for staff to work with. At its April meeting, Planning Commission held a public hearing on this amendment, and no one spoke in opposition, and Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions from council?
I'll just share with the group that after the Planning Commission discussion on this, I did follow up with staff just with some concerns related to encroachment into site distance. And I don't know, I spent some time doing a bunch of homework, driving around the city, looking at existing signs and where they're at. And I think it'll be okay. But I think it is important that we obviously don't want to compromise safety. So I would be much more comfortable if we had something in there ensuring that during sign placement that it's, or any type of instruction, that the site distance is checked and verified.
I don't want to rock the boat because I'm in favor of it. I mean, I just to help businesses, to have uniform signage and
simplifies it.
so you can see it better.
This is a good balance. Mr. Harless, do you think it could, something like what Councilor Campbell's speaking of could be included in that?
Because just like the graphic you just showed earlier with the site distance triangles, that's not the accurate way to measure site distance. You just don't do it's more, the site distance is measured from where the driver would be sitting in the car.
Right, correct.
So this is not a good representation of, so I feel like with where the signs would probably be located, they'll be okay based on the driver's viewpoint, but I always get hesitant just doing. I agree. I think we fully need to have some uniformity in our zoning ordinance from a sign setback standpoint of where they should be located, so it's not different across the city. But again, I just don't want to compromise safety over standards.
The pictures you took today, will the 5-foot give us?
I mean, they're all over the place. Like I said, this is needed because it's all over the place right now. Like there's some that are 1 foot back from the property line, anywhere from the new ones on Richmond Road at the Chick-fil-A. I mean, they're 20, 30 feet setback.
Do you think the 5-foot will maintain a safety margin?
That's for our city engineer to determine.
Yeah. But you said it was going to be okay.
Boy, he's speaking like a politician.
Yeah, like a politician. Yeah. Don't want to take any accountability there.
Good research, though.
I think there is one question. Would this just be for new signs going in, or would everybody have to change their signs?
This would only be for new signs. Any existing signs, whether they meet this requirement or not, they would be allowed to continue. In the future, if they were replaced, then they would have to be brought into conformance with this new ordinance.
But I mean, and if the owner decided they wanted to do it on their own, not force them, but if they wanted, because better visibility, they could do it. Nothing to say they can.
Sure. And there are some cases in B1 districts or professional districts where someone might very well want to move their sign because it had to be placed so far back when they initially installed it.
Okay. Any other questions from councilors? I'm going to open up a public hearing for Zoom participants and people from the audience to speak strictly on the I'm not about to read this all over again, Mr. Artist. The Stanton City Code pertaining to signs. Public hearing is now open. Would anyone like to speak on the subject? Mr. Kester, we have any callers?
No, sir. I have no one with their hand raised.
Last call. Public hearing is over. I'll now entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Robertson.
I move that council adopt the ordinance and approve the amendments as recommended by the planning commission.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Vice Mayor Darby, a second. Mr. Kester, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Miss Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson.
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood.
Aye.
Miss Woods.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I think Adam should have made that motion since he
Yeah,
said
me
it was
too.
fine.
Hey, I want him on record for something to have to do with this.
Again.
All right, that brings us to matters from the city manager, Ms. Beauregard.
Thank you, Mayor Claffey. I have a few items this evening. I'll start with an update on the JDR court project. You probably, if you've driven by the old Chestnut Hills, we got to come up with a better name. Eventually, we will do that. You've seen the mobilization happening. There's a trailer out there. There's some other pieces of equipment. And I'll just give a quick update as to where we are. I'll start out by saying that we are on schedule and on budget, the two most important things. We're still going to be open by November 2025. So crossing our fingers here. But what's happening right now, why you haven't seen the Hex building get torn down yet, is we have to remediate the asbestos that's in the building, and that is underway right now. That is scheduled to be complete in 3 weeks. That will be followed by the remediation of the Big Lots building, and that should take about 4 weeks. Demolition of the Hex building will begin as soon as the industrial hygienist, that's a person, the position, I've never heard of that before, certifies that the air of the building is clear of any asbestos. And then that demolition will take about a month, and then demolition of the Big Lots will follow. Their site work erosion and sedimentation controls are in place. They're clearing the area behind the Hex building, which is where a lot of the parking will go for staff. And there's be a roadway looping behind that, if you've seen the renderings of that. Water line work is scheduled to start the week of May 20th. And as I said, it's very early in the process so far, but so far we are on schedule. And also, if you live in that vicinity, over 100 residents, property owners received a letter about the project, kind of telling them who they can call to get information about that if they have any questions. And so far that's been positively received. So that's my update on the court project. Another exciting addition to transit is the Community Services Board is now serviced by public transportation. As of last week, Bright has begun 3 daily stops at this location, so that's very exciting. And then finally, we have a new city assessor starting with the city later this month. His name is Douglas Flynn. He'll begin on May 20th, and he most recently served as the Chief Deputy Assessor for Powhatan County. So we're very excited to have him start in a few weeks. And that is my report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Everybody ready for matters from the public? This part of City Council's agenda is entitled Matters from the Public. It is the time the council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about a wide variety of subjects. If you would like to speak, please call in on the Zoom line or come to the podium to make your comments. Keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, please. Matters from the public is now open. Welcome.
Thank you. Macaulay, Dan Macaulay, 938 Selma Boulevard and Eros Boulevard in the world. Thank you for taking the item off the consent agenda. It's something I did write to council about. I feel we'll listen to as a citizen of the city. Next question is, if you're going to delay this for another 6 months or so, where does this policy go? Is this something the city council only will be looking at, or are you going to be looking for some sort of public input on who should comprise citizens committees in Staunton? I think the public hearing on the rezoning was a showcase on what could go wrong with bringing in outside people of the city. On one side, you had city residents who've been longing for utilities, the right to build a deck, versus people from outside. The presenter tonight was from Fishersville. So who sits on a citizens committee in Staunton? What are the interests? Who should be there? I'm not just talking about putting my money where my mouth is. I went ahead and put my name in for consideration for committees, okay? I can only hope that I have the skills, abilities, talents, and everything to fit in. But, it's nice that you delayed it, but what happens for the next 6 months with this idea of who sits on citizens committees? Thank you.
Mr. Kester, do we have any callers?
No, sir, I have no one with their hand raised.
Would anyone else like to speak? Welcome.
Hi, Steve Paulson, 315 Sherwood. Building Bridges for the Greater Good. Would just like to thank you for the mass rezoning. We think it's going to give the residents more opportunities. And again, I just want you to protect it now. It's kind of, as we say, we've been nurturing it. We've been bringing it along. The residents, the next step is to get them a septic line and streets and sewer line and some street lights and such. But yeah, it's great that you did that. I appreciate that it was unanimous, and Building Bridges for the Greater Good appreciates it as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Mayor Claffey, we have someone with their hand raised.
Caller, go ahead, please.
This is Brenda Mead. Was that a laugh? Oh, okay. So I'd like to express my very strong opposition to putting Augusta County business owners on Staunton boards and commissions. First of all, Augusta County business owners are well represented on the Staunton Downtown Development Authority and the West End Business Association. Second, there is no limit to the access Augusta County business owners currently have to city council members. They have you all on speed dial, and they don't hesitate to call. Think Laird, Dahl, Sheets, Ramsey, etc. Third, putting Augusta County business owners tips the balance on our boards and commissions toward, frankly, white, male, and high-income demographics, not the kind of diversity that Staunton is looking for. Finally, Staunton values protecting our architectural and historic resources, our downtown, a well-planned entrance corridors, our fine parks, and our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion for our citizens. These do not appear to be values that Augusta County embraces. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Mr. Kester, anybody else?
No, sir, I have no hands raised.
All right, in that case, I'd like to call this meeting to adjournment, and we wish everybody a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you very much, Steve.